to the resto build video. So today's video, the goal is to get the motor from this to the final ready to drop in my car. So we'll show you little clips of everything we're doing. So basically in the last video I got the head on. Go check out that video if you want a nice long in-depth video of me doing like the valve stem seals, everything like that. Then off camera I got the camshafts, the cam gears, the timing belt, the tensioner, the pulley. So I still have to finish off the front half of the motor. I might do that off camera though since it's not super exciting. But right now what I'm doing is I got the spark plugs in, and now I'm going to do the coil packs. Now for the coil packs on the 2JZ and any other car, you can sometimes get hairline cracks, which means when your igniter sends a signal, instead of going down to your spark plug, it'll go out the crack and ground on your engine block, thus not getting any spark and you'll misfire. Now from driftmotion.com, I got a pack of 6 of these little heat shrink tubing. So I've already done the other 4 cylinders, but I thought I'd show you guys this on camera. So what you do is you remove the boot, and then they're just the exact right size. You just put them over top. There's one. Open it up. There's 2. Place the little rubber boot. This is like the little insulator that goes on your spark plug. Push it on as far as you can. As you can see, it looks like they're almost too big. But now let's go over to our heater. Little propane heater. Here's what I used last time. So they're, as you can see, they're way too big. Push them on as far as they can go. If you do have a 2JZ or anything, I highly recommend doing this, as it can save you from buying very expensive coil packs. Flip them over. These were $3 for all 6, or if you live somewhere that has a good selection of electrical stores, you can just measure your diameter of your coil pack. Ooh, that's hot. And just make some custom ones. So anyway, once they're almost all tight, I'm just gonna, yep, those are all done. Make sure that the boots are pushed on all the way. And then I label my coil pack so I know where they go. This is cylinder 1 and 2, of course. So put them in there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and screw them all in. So now that we've got those on, I have a whole bunch of little accessories to put on the head. These are the valve cover ventilation hoses. I just bought the new ones last year because these always crack and then you get a bunch of oil building up in here. So as you can see, these are nice and easy to put on. And I want to show you guys something pretty cool. I'm not going to be screwing down my valve cover my spark plug cover quite yet, because I still have to do my wiring harness. I got new igniter clips to prevent misfire as well. But just for a preview and to keep the timing belt clean, I'm going to put that on. And this is the big surprise I was showing you. So last year I made a custom oil cap by screwing on a eBay oil cap to the special 2JZ spring oil thingy. But no longer will I need that now that I have a Drift Motion billet oil cap. This is actually the exact replica of a 1JZ and a 2JZGTE. They didn't have the GTE in stock, so this is the exact replica of a piston with the exhaust reliefs, piston ring, gaps, and everything. So let's go ahead and install that. Boom, just like that. And as you can see, I also have a nice polished valve covers. So she's looking good. These are for my cat's can. So now I'm going to go ahead and put on stuff like cam sensors, a little breather for this side of the valve cover, engine hooks, and a few coolant hoses. And then we'll get on to the turbo manifold. So what we're doing now is, before mounting the exhaust, underneath it is the passenger side engine mount. And at the end of last season, I noticed my whole engine, when I would rev, my whole car would kind of like twist. And if you were looking at the engine, it was definitely time for new mounts. So I got this one brand new from our good friends Rock Auto, and I'm just taking the shield off of my current engine mount. Fits on pretty good. Wouldn't say perfect, but pretty good, I think. Oh, yeah, just a little bit different fitment, but that's okay. Should still work the same, I think. And now we're just going to put her on the engine. And then we'll put the turbo on. Alright, there we go. So there's the manifold all bolted on. Now the next step, what I'm going to be doing is doing the oil drain line. I have a quick modification to make. Basically, I took off the flange from the turbo side of it, because as you can see, your turbo mounts right here, and the oil drain line on this design goes straight down here, brushes close to this part of the manifold before going into the block. So what I've done is I picked up online this 4-inch section of heat wrap. It's expensive. It's probably like $1.50 per foot, depending on where you get it. But I'm going to wrap it around my drain line just like this, put it around there, then use 2 metal, not plastic, zip ties to secure it in place. Then I'm going to go ahead and bolt it to the block, turbo, then I've got my feed line here just waiting to go on top. So there's the drain line all done with the heat wrap and the flange tightly secured back on. And so basically, just a little tip. So there's my turbo all mocked up and mounted there. So basically right now it's all loose. All these little clocking bolts are loose, so you can actually spin it like this, as you can see there. Now essentially what I like to do is I just put 2 of the 4 bolts in just very loosely, and for example, if I mount my drain flange right there, I want to make sure that that will fit. As you can see, it fits quite nicely. It'll go right up there. Obviously you want your oil drain to be no more than 15 degrees off of the vertical for proper oil drain. So mine's not terrible, but with these manifolds usually you have to clock them quite a bit, or else it's going to hit this runner right here. Also, my turbo outlet pipe I know has to be at an angle something like there. So now what I'm going to do to save myself a lot of time is take these 2 bolts back out, and then take this to a bench to tighten them all up, or else the ones in there are pretty much impossible to tighten. So there's the motor. Basically I'll run you through what I've done off camera. So I got the turbo fully mounted, all the bolts are tightened down. I mocked up my little gold intake here. Now there's no mesh in this, so I was basically just going to use that gold intake for car shows, or if I could decide somehow to put a fine filter screen in there without the chance of it getting sucked in, I would definitely run it, because in my opinion it looks sweet. I got the oil feed line on here. It's a little bit bent just from sitting funny, but it'll straighten out. Now this here is a restrictor for a 35 thou hole. Now basically this is a journal bearing turbo, so usually you don't run a restrictor, but as just like the eBay Rev 9 brand that I'm going to be trying out, a lot of people say they run this smaller restrictor to keep the oil pressure down, as some people believe these bearings aren't as good. I'm going to be making a totally different video on the turbo, so please don't get mad at me for not talking about it too much in today's video. And I'd be very happy to hear you guys' comments, but mainly I'm doing it as a review for the cheaper turbos for people who want to try a cheaper setup. Now moving on, save that for a different video. Here we have the oil drain. I've got gaskets on both of these here, and I got my heat wrap protecting it. As you can see, it touches the flange. Then it just goes down straight into the oil pan. These come stock turbo, obviously, so they are all set up for turbos, which is very nice. I also reassembled the front half of my engine, including the upper and lower covers. I got my crank pulley torqued on to 239 foot-pounds. Got all my pulleys back on, serpentine belt, tensioner. So now we are going to move to this side of the engine here. So what we're going to be doing is the lower, upper intake, little things like dipsticks, and also this guy here. So I was a little bit too excited to not show you guys what this is. This here is a Radium Engineering fuel rail, billet fuel rail for the 2JZ. Basically it's some people say one of the best on the market. It might be a little overkill, but I think it's sweet. As I mentioned, I don't have too many super expensive parts on here, so I thought why not do at least a fuel rail. So this kit here came with a fuel rail, 1000 cc. I think they're Bosch style injectors, but they come flow matched and tested. There's a flow chart right here. They flow 996 cc's at the base pressure of 43.5 psi and right there around 14 volts, 996 cc. But I have a fuel pressure regulator, so if I ever want to bump it up to 55, maybe 60 psi, I probably wouldn't go much higher than that though. I can get closer to 1100 for that little bit more horsepower, although I do not think I'll need it. This kit also comes with some super nice parts, such as these lower injector seats. They're green, and all the hardware I need, fittings. So I'm going to go over installing that once I get the intake manifold on. We're going to go installing my beautiful Radium Engineering fuel rail. So here's all the parts we have. I already showed you guys piece by piece. So what we're going to do first is work on these injector seats. So they come with little O-rings, so I don't have to weld. And right here I have a little dish of gasoline to provide just a little bit of lubrication to the O-ring. So I'm going to just put a little bit of lubrication, put it over inside the slot, make sure it seats properly. And then on the lower intake runner, just place them right where the injectors go. Looks like they are a perfect fit. I'm going to go do that to all 6 of them. See, we got all the lower bungs in there. So now we're going to move over to the fuel rail itself. So this fuel rail basically has mounting holes on the underside, as well as of course your 6 injector holes, and then these 2 8AN orb tapped fittings. I think those are for additional feeds aside from the ones at the end. And I got their whole radium fuel kit, which included 2 6AN adapters and 2 8AN orb plugs. So basically my setup is a simple feed and return style setup with a fuel pressure regulator on the return side. Oh wow, that's not the right size Allen key. Anyway, so what I'm doing right here is finding the right size Allen key. Alright, now what I'm doing is I'm going to tighten down these orb fittings. They're O-ring fittings, so I know they're going to work very nicely. There we go. I don't want to over tighten them because if it broke, I would be quite an upset camper. Alright, there we go. And now I'm going to put these 6AN fittings on each end. And then we're going to go ahead and install the injectors. What I just did here is I just tested a single injector in the fitting so that I knew what mounts to use, as they provided these long ones and the short ones. I'm going to keep the short ones just in case I change in the future. But very nice billet mounts, obviously. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and toss all the injectors in, because then I believe we are ready to put it on. So I'll show you guys here what I'm doing. So I have 6 of them, obviously. Take off these little top caps. Oh, there we go. And I believe that's everything. It's all pre-assembled, I mean. So again, using my gasoline as a light duty lubricant. Just gonna get the top O-ring, bottom O-ring, and then now I'm gonna do injector clip up, obviously, for easy wiring. I'm surprised they don't see a little bit more sturdy. As you can see, they wiggle around quite a bit. Hopefully that fixes itself when I bolt down the rail. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of the 4 of these in. So there's all my injectors in the fuel rail. They're all pretty much square, so this should go in not terribly. I've got my little spacers. So here we go. Line them all up, all the O-rings, and then I should be able to push the mounts on. I'm being careful because it's quite the expensive setup here. we go. There we go. Now, to finish off the install, I've got 2 bolts. Radium requires you to use the stock fuel rail bolts, which is whatever. They're not the prettiest things, but they'll work. They were flimsy before, but as I pictured when I bolted on, it really solidifies it. So let me get this last bolt on, then I'll give you the final overlook.
1.
Alright, so there is my radium fuel rail, 100% mounted. The injectors are nice and snug in there. Everything fit perfectly. So all I have to do to finish the fuel setup is do the fuel pressure regulator, which I'm doing on the return side. I have braided lines, proper fittings. It's going to be sweet, so make sure to stay tuned and subscribe for that. And just as a comparison, here's my stock fuel rail. Obviously it has hard lines, and there's the fuel pressure regulator with like rubber hose. So obviously it's a mess. These were the 550cc injectors, and for anyone who's interested, this is for sale. It's going to be on eBay as well, but if you catch me before it sells, then I'll sell it for a very good price for the 550cc injectors, fuel rail, resistor pack, etc. I'm going to be running these 1000cc injectors and making big power. Intake on, so my motor is now 100% assembled aside from the wiring harness in the box over there and like the oil dipstick, but whatever. Anyway, so basically my next video for this car is going to be wiring harness, finished up the brakes. I have big 4-piston super brakes coming in the mail. Sorry, they're actually right here. I just got to paint them, do the brake lines. I have braided brake lines here. Whole bunch of braided brake lines and blue AN fittings. It's going to be sweet. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see some sick stuff. But there's the motor essentially done. Just have to make the wiring harness adapt to the new injectors, and I have a few new clips. Let me know if you guys want to see a video of the wiring harness or just a video of basically the brakes and putting the motor back in the car. But until then, you're going to probably see a few videos on Ali's LS400, and as always, RSX and Civic videos. So thanks for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe.